Cruise control on the Miata. It has to be my favorite topic. Probably because we had to wait for 20 years before it became an option in Europe, and getting cruise control on your car requires some research before you can retrofit an original system on the car. We'll have a look at the evolution, at the technology behind it, and at the most common issues that prevent the system from working. It all started with a cruise control main switch on the far left in the dashboard and a special wiper lever that also contained the cruise control functions. The system also supports two diagnostics modes that communicate via light signals, but there was no cruise control indicator in the instrument cluster unless you made one yourself. With the introduction of the NB generation, we saw a new cruise control main switch, a modernized lever on the combination switch, and for the first time a cruise control status indicator just above the fuel gauge. There is a second version of the cruise control main switch for the NB for cars that have front fog lights. When the low fuel light was introduced, the cruise indicator had to move and it found a new home in the speedometer. Still no cruise control for Europe, but we had a rear fog light instead, sometimes even in combination with front fog lights. As a result, there is no room for the cruise control main switch in our dashboard, so we either have to hide it or we have to improvise and find new spaces for it. This hold indicator is used on European NBs with an automatic transmission. I had no use for it, so I drilled out the lens and replaced it with the lens of an early NB and came up with this result. With the introduction of the NC generation, all cruise control related buttons found a new home on the right side of the steering wheel. There was no cruise control indicator in the instrument cluster initially, but that was corrected after the facelift in 2009. In the meantime, we figured out how we can get the 1.8 liter ECU to support cruise control as well. The same is true for the instrument cluster, where Mazda failed to install a number of components on the PCB. And we know how to alter the gauge phase so that it will also support a cruise control indicator on the NC1. For the ND generation, Mazda added some more functionality. So besides the standard cruise control functionality, you also had the opportunity to set your own speed limiter so that you won't go over the speed limit unintended. The system also recommends the correct gear for the set speed. The first two generations used a throttle body and a throttle cable to operate a valve that controls the amount of air that goes into the engine. The NA and NB both use a standalone cruise control module that controls an actuator in the engine bay. The actuator is similar to a brake booster. It uses vacuum from the engine and a membrane, in this case to pull on a cable or to hold or release the cable to control the throttle. The actuator has three solenoids that are controlled by the module to increase, hold or decrease the amount of vacuum behind the membrane. Cars with cruise control have an additional mechanism at the top of the gas pedal where two cables are attached, and these will be competing for control over the throttle body. In this picture you can see both cables attached. There is no tension on the actuator cable, so the throttle cable is in the lead. In 2005, Mazda switched with the introduction of the NC, but also on the Mazda 6, to the electronic throttle body, therefore eliminating the need for a throttle cable. This change gives the ECU full control over mixing air and fuel and also over the cruise control system. To summarize, we can now see two clear groups within these generations. The first two generations use a dedicated cruise control module. They still have a steel throttle cable. They have an actuator in the engine bay using vacuum from the engine, a main switch on the far left in the dashboard, a set and resume switch on the wiper lever behind the steering wheel. There's no cancel button. They have only a cruise control indicator if you make one or if you have the NB. There's a minimum speed of 40 km per hour or 25 miles an hour, and diagnostics are available. Cruise control on the NC and ND is controlled by the engine control unit or powertrain control module. Communication goes via the CAN bus. They use an electronic throttle body. The speed is controlled by the servo motor that is controlled by the ECU. The main switch and all of the other switches are on the steering wheel. There is a cruise control indicator in most cases. Minimum speed can already be set at 80 miles per hour or 30 kilometers per hour, but diagnostics modes are not available. A cruise control system will always monitor all the relevant switches and the vehicle speed to determine what actions are required to make the system behave as it should. The vehicle speed signal on the NA is produced in the instrument cluster using the rotation of the speedometer cable and the reed switch. The other switches are sometimes combined, sometimes separate, but they all have their purpose and provide input to the cruise control module. On the NB, the vehicle speed signal is also produced in the instrument cluster, but this time it is based on a signal coming from a speed sensor gear in the transmission. The clutch switch and brake switch are identical to those on the NA generation. The neutral switch, however, appears to be ignored, so you could over-rev the engine if you pull the transmission into neutral without using the clutch. On the NC and ND, all the calculations for the vehicle speed signal are done by the ECU based on the signals from the ABS speed sensors at each of the wheels. Only for the automatic transmission there is a speed sensor, a magnetic one, in the transmission. Let's talk about troubleshooting. In my experience, these systems are pretty reliable, but I also know that there are some common issues. The best way to find out what's wrong is by having the system tell you what is wrong. For that, you need to understand the diagnostics modes that these cruise control modules of the NA and NB generation support. I will make a separate video about those and will show you what these systems can report. So if you're interested in that, please subscribe to the channel to make sure that you are informed when these videos are published. The NA generation did not have a cruise control indicator, but you could make one. The NB generation already has a cruise control indicator in the instrument cluster, and that will also be of use during these diagnostics. The NA cruise control module can stop working as a result of leaking electrolytic capacitors. There are 5 of them in total inside this module. You can check them visually. If they have a different color or stains at the top, or they are deformed in one way or another, then it could be time to replace these low-cost capacitors. In this picture you can see a capacitor that looked fine from the top but was leaking from the side. In many cases the cruise control has stopped working because the system believes that the clutch is depressed. Under normal circumstances, the white rod of the clutch switch is pushed in by a turquoise bump stop, unless that bump stop is missing or broken. In that case, the white rod will not be pushed in because it passes through the hole where the bump stop should be. Placing a new bump stop solves that issue. A similar issue could occur with the brake switch bump stop, but in that case you would see it immediately because your stop lights would be on all the time. There is, however, a different issue potentially with the brake switch. If the brake switch malfunctions, the cruise control module will think you are using the brake and will not allow you to engage the cruise control. Another issue that can occur is when you swap out the normal bulbs of the stoplights for LEDs. The voltage drop that the cruise control module expects will be less, and therefore the module will assume that there's something wrong with the brake switch and will not allow you to drive using cruise control. Sometimes the capacity of the actuator to hold vacuum can be an issue. This is an exceptional situation. Here we have a 3-liter V6 with a Rocketeer kit in an NB. I installed the original cruise control system, but sometimes it's hard for the system to accelerate using the actuator. If you are experiencing an issue with the NC cruise control system, look at the brake switch first. These are self-adjusting. They contain a normally open and a normally closed switch. And if these are in conflict with each other, then you will see some issues in the instrument cluster or the cruise control not working. In case you enjoyed this overview, please hit the like button. If you are curious to find out how you can diagnose the cruise control system on the NA or the NB generation, then please subscribe to the channel, then you will be notified when those videos are published. If you have any feedback for me, please leave a comment in the section below. And for now, I would like to thank you for watching MX5 Info.